Your grandparents survived brutal winters without touching a thermostat. And one of their methods is so counterintuitive, modern survival experts said it shouldn't work. They were dead wrong. You know those fancy space heaters that cost a fortune to run? Your grandparents laughed at those. They had something better. A few tea light candles, one upside down terracotta pot. That's it. Here's why it works. The clay absorbs heat from the flames like a sponge soaking up water. Then it releases that warmth slowly into the room. It's basically a thermal battery you can build for $8. Now, I tried this in my bathroom last winter when the power went out. Within an hour, the temperature jumped about 12 degrees. My neighbor thought I was crazy until he felt the difference himself. The catch? Don't try heating your living room with this thing. It's like using a garden hose to fill a swimming pool. Small spaces only. One more thing. That pot gets screamin' hot. Place it on a baking sheet or something fireproof, unless you want to explain burn marks to your landlord. But candles aren't the only forgotten heat source hiding in plain sight. Your grandparents didn't have microwaves, but they had something just as good. A tube sock, some dry rice, and a sunny day. Fill that sock about 2/3 full, tie a knot at the end, and toss it on your car dashboard. Black dashboard works best. Give it 30 or 40 minutes on a clear day, and that thing hits about 120 degrees. No power required. The rice holds heat like nobody's business. Tuck it under your blankets at your feet, drape it across your neck, or stuff it behind your lower back. Stays warm for nearly an hour. Now, here's what surprised me. Our great-grandparents actually preferred dried corn or cherry pits. Turns out they hold heat even longer than rice. Who knew? The best part? Unlike electric heating pads, you can fall asleep with these things. Zero fire risk. Zero electricity. Just cozy warmth that costs maybe $2 to make. Speaking of things hiding right above your head, most ceiling fans have a little switch hiding on them. Right there on the motor housing. Flip it, and you reverse the blade direction. Why does this matter? Hot air rises. Always has. Your ceiling might be 15 degrees warmer than where your feet are freezing. That's heat you've already generated, just floating up there doing nothing. Run the fan clockwise on low speed, and it pushes that warm air back down the walls without creating a draft. You feel warmer without adding any heat source. One study found this simple trick makes rooms feel up to 4 degrees warmer. 4 degrees. From flipping a tiny switch most people never notice. My father-in-law called me crazy when I suggested this. Then his heating bill dropped. Suddenly I was a genius. Can't find the switch. Look near where the blades connect to the motor. It's usually black and smaller than your pinky nail, but what about your windows? South-facing windows are basically free heaters. And most people ignore them completely? Here's the deal. In winter, the sun hangs lower in the sky. That angle sends sunlight deeper into your rooms than it does during summer. Free warmth, delivered daily, no subscription required. Open those curtains when the sun's out. Close them the second it sets. That window glass turns into a heat vampire after dark, sucking warmth right out of your house. But here's what really works. Put something dark near sunny windows. A black rug, dark furniture, even a gallon jug filled with water. These absorb heat during the day and release it slowly into the evening. Your own personal thermal battery. My neighbor thought I'd lost my mind when I lined water jugs along her south window. Her skepticism lasted exactly one heating bill. Cloudy outside? You're still getting roughly 20% of that solar benefit. Not nothing. I'll be honest, I thought these health rings were a scam. I bought one half expecting to send it back. 3 months later, it hasn't left my finger. And it does way more than I expected. Sleep, heart rate, activity, recovery, my cycle, and stress, all from one little ring. The thing that helped me most? I realized my afternoon coffee was quietly wrecking my sleep. One small change, cutting it off after lunch, And within a week, I was sleeping like a rock. Now, here's why I'm telling you this. Right now, the ring's 63% off. Just $60 if you grab it through the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. There's a 90-day money-back guarantee if it's not for you. But I'm keeping mine. Speaking of blocking cold air from sneaking in, that gap under your door? It's basically a welcome mat for cold air. Most people shove a towel down there and call it good. Rookie move. A proper draft snake filled with sand blocks 3 times more cold air. The weight matters. Here's a weird one that actually works. Old pantyhose stuffed with kitty litter. Sounds ridiculous, I know. But the litter molds itself to uneven floors where towels leave gaps. My mother-in-law thought I'd finally cracked when she saw me stuffing her old stockings. She stopped laughing when her kitchen stayed warm. And those electrical outlets on exterior walls? They're sneaky little traitors. Foam gaskets behind the cover plates cost maybe 15 cents each. Want to find every draft in your house? Light a candle and walk it slowly around windows and doors. Wherever that flame dances, cold air is throwing a party. Weather stripping runs about $5 per door, 10 minutes to install. Now, windows need attention too. Bubble wrap isn't just for popping when you're bored. That stuff is basically poor man's double pane windows. Here's the trick. Spray water directly on your window glass. Press the bubble side against the wet surface. It sticks like magic and stays put for months. Those little air pockets? They work exactly like the air gap in expensive thermal windows. Large bubbles work better than small ones, so grab the packing material, not those padded mailers. And you still get about 80% of your natural light through. Your plants won't even notice. Single pane windows bleed heat like a sieve. Bubble wrap cuts that loss nearly in half. Best part, come spring it peels right off. No sticky residue. No torn paint. Unlike that plastic shrink film stuff that always leaves your window frames looking like a crime scene. But windows aren't your only heat thief. Your kitchen might actually be a secret weapon. Your kitchen is basically a furnace that also makes dinner. Bake in a loaf of bread? That oven pumps out enough heat to warm your kitchen by 5 to 8 degrees. And you get bread. Win-win. Here's what most people waste, though. They finish cooking and just close the oven door. All that leftover heat sits there doing nothing. Crack it open. Let it flood into the room. You already paid for that heat when you cook dinner. Simmering soup on the stovetop does double duty. It radiates warmth for hours while adding humidity to that bone-dry winter air. Your skin will thank you. Slow cookers are sneaky geniuses. They release gentle, steady heat all day long. Minimal energy, maximum coziness. Our great-grandparents weren't stupid. They put wood stoves smack in the middle of their kitchens because cooking and heating were literally the same activity. Time your baking for when you're actually home. That heat's coming whether you feel it or not. Speaking of reflecting heat where you actually need it, NASA spent millions developing Mylar for spacecraft insulation. You can buy the same technology at a dollar store. Those shiny emergency blankets, they reflect 90% of radiant heat. And here's what most people never realize. Your radiator is basically heating your wall. Up to 40% of that warmth gets absorbed by the wall behind it and escapes right outside. Such a waste. Tape a sheet of Mylar behind your radiator, shiny side facing out. The difference is immediate. That heat bounces back into your room instead of warming your neighbor's exterior wall. Works for heating vents too. Wood stoves, anything that radiates warmth. I stuck one behind my old baseboard heater last winter. My cat immediately relocated to that spot and refused to move for 3 months. Smart animal. $1 sheet covers multiple heat sources. Lasts for years if you're not rough with it. But sometimes the smartest move isn't adding heat. It's shrinking where you need it. Heating your entire house when you only use 3 rooms is like paying rent for apartments you don't live in. Close those doors. Every unused bedroom, every guest bathroom, every storage room. Shut them off. Sounds obvious. But most people leave everything wide open because it feels more spacious. Spacious and freezing. Here's the math. 1,000 square foot home takes roughly twice the heat energy of a 500 square foot space. Cut your heated area in half, cut your heating needs nearly in half. During the Depression, whole families slept in the kitchen. Not because they were weird, because that's where the stove was and they weren't fools. Hang a heavy blanket over doorways between your warm zone and cold zones. Works better than you'd think. My grandmother called it shutting off the north wing, even though she lived in an 800 square foot bungalow. But shrinking your space only works if you're actually staying warm while it's stationary. A quality sleeping bag rated to 30 degrees keeps you warmer than 3 blankets stacked together. Not even close. Here's why. Blankets lose heat from every edge. You shift, gaps form, cold air rushes in. A sleeping bag? It's a sealed cocoon that traps your body heat with nowhere to escape. Same principle as a thermos. Small space, captured warmth, minimal loss. Keep one on the couch for TV watching. Sounds lazy. Actually genius. Why heat an entire room when you're just sitting there binge-watching old westerns? Mummy-style bags with hoods retain 15% more heat than rectangular ones. Your head radiates a shocking amount of warmth, so covering it matters. Military surplus bags rated for extreme cold run $30 to $50 at Army surplus stores. Soldiers have used these in actual war zones. Your living room is considerably less hostile. One critical mistake people make: unzipping the bag to use it like a blanket. That defeats the entire purpose. Stay zipped, but sleeping bags only work while you're still hot water bottles. Your grandmother wasn't being old-fashioned. She was being brilliant. A rubber hot water bottle tucked under your blanket stays warm for 6 to 8 hours. Electric heating pads? They shut off after an hour for safety reasons. Grandma wins. Here's the trick nobody tells you. Fill it with hot tap water, never boiling. Boiling water degrades rubber faster than teenagers go through phone batteries. Plus, it can cause dangerous leaks. Now where you place it matters. Tuck it at your feet. Sounds random, but your blood circulates from your feet back up through your entire body. Warm feet equals warm everything. The British military issued these to troops during World War I, not because they were sentimental, because they actually worked better than the alternatives in freezing trenches. Wrap yours in a towel or old sock. Prevents burns and surprisingly extends the heat duration. Modern silicone versions last over 10 years without cracking. Speaking of heat that lasts, composting creates temperatures that would shock you. We're talking 130 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit from rotting vegetables. Seriously, bacteria breaking down organic matter generate heat like tiny furnaces working overtime. Farmers figured this out centuries ago. They'd build hotbeds next to greenhouses and let decomposition do the heating. No fuel required. Here's where it gets interesting. A French guy named Jean Pain heated his entire home in the 1970s using nothing but wood chip compost. His neighbors probably thought he'd lost his mind. Turns out he was a genius. Place a compost bin against your home's exterior wall. That warmth radiates right through. A properly built pile maintains temperature for 4 to 6 months straight. Zero maintenance needed. And that same bacterial heat explains why farmers panic about haystacks. They can literally catch fire from decomposition alone. Spontaneous combustion from grass clippings. Nature's weird like that. Speaking of weird solutions, cardboard might be your ceiling's best friend. Cardboard. The stuff Amazon keeps sending you might actually save your life. Here's what most people don't realize. Heat doesn't just escape through walls and windows. It drops straight down through your floor into basements and crawl spaces. You're basically heating the spiders. Stapling flattened boxes to your basement ceiling creates a thermal barrier that costs nothing. Literally nothing. Cardboard has about 1/3 the insulating value of fiberglass insulation. Not bad for garbage. Want to make it even better? Layer newspaper between cardboard sheets? Those trapped air pockets work like tiny insulation bubbles. There's a reason homeless populations figured this out decades ago. Cardboard works. It's not pretty. Building inspectors would probably have a heart attack. But during an emergency, nobody's checking codes when pipes are freezing. This trick has kept people alive through brutal winters for generations. Sometimes the cheapest solutions are hiding in your recycling bin. Now, here's something you're probably overlooking: your own body heat. Your own body heat. You're basically a walking space heater. The average human pumps out about 100 watts constantly. That's a bright light bulb just existing. Now, put 4 family members in one room, you've got a 400-watt heater running all night for free. This is exactly why pioneer families crammed into tiny bedrooms. Not because they couldn't afford bigger houses, because physics works. Got pets? Even better. A medium dog throws off 50 to 75 watts. Cats contribute about 30 watts each. Your golden retriever is basically a furry radiator that demands belly rubs. Ever heard the phrase three-dog night? It comes from Australian Aboriginal culture. Meant a night so cold you needed 3 dogs sleeping around you to survive it. Sitting close together on a couch creates this little microclimate of shared warmth. Sounds cheesy, works beautifully, but body heat only goes so far. What you put inside your body matters even more. Your stomach is basically a furnace. Feed it right, and it throws off heat for hours. A cup of hot tea or coffee raises your core temperature for 30 to 45 minutes. Not the room, you. And that's the whole point when you can't heat the space around you. But here's where it gets interesting. Certain foods actually crank up your internal thermostat. Ginger, cayenne pepper, cinnamon, these aren't just flavor, they're thermogenic, meaning they force your body to produce more heat during digestion. Ever feel warm after a big meal? That's not coincidence. Digestion itself generates heat. It's called the thermic effect of food. A bowl of hot oatmeal keeps your internal furnace burning way longer than a cold sandwich. And whatever you do, skip the whiskey. I know, it feels warming going down. But alcohol actually dilates your blood vessels and drops your core temperature. Your grandpa's medicinal brandy was working against him the whole time.